There isn't any scientific formula as such to appreciate a poem like we have formulas in science, right? In literature, it is completely theoretical. The opinions from poet to poet may vary. Actually, the poems are supposed to be felt rather than appreciated, and many critics have different theories of their own about how to judge a poem and how to think over it critically. So, today, my topic is what is critical appreciation. Hello friends, welcome to my channel ELS English Literature Studies with Kaur Harpreet. Today I will discuss what is critical appreciation, right? And what are the basis on which a poem is judged and how a poet think over it critically, right? Before discussion about critical appreciation, let us firstly understand that it does not mean critical appreciation does not mean as an opportunity for a poet to spill out his emotions, right? It does not mean to judge the poem as good or bad. It is not a hunt for a single message, or it is not a hunt for scattered similes, metaphors, or alliterations. Not even it is a hunt for single message which the poet has cunningly hidden somewhere here and there in his poem, right? So these things are not to be included when we are going to start critical appreciation, right? These we have to firstly very clear about this, that these things are not included in critical appreciation. That critical appreciation does not mean to judge the poem as it is good or bad. It is not an opportunity to spill out emotions. It is not to hunt for similes, metaphors, and it is not hunt for a single message, right? What does exactly critical appreciation means? Critical appreciation of a poem means a critical reading of a poem, right? In simple words, it means to evaluate, it means to analyze a poem for its better understanding, right? Sometimes my students who are new to literature, they confuse critical appreciation with criticism. Critical appreciation does not mean criticizing the poem, right? It does not mean to judge the poem as good or bad. Critical appreciation does not mean to criticize the poem. Its mean or its function is that it helps us to understand it in better way, right? So let us read what is critical appreciation mean. It is an attempt to explain what the poem is about and why it is written the way it is, right? It is an attempt to explain the subject of the poem. What is the subject of the poem? It is a description of poetic techniques which enhance the feelings evoked by the words, right? Now, what does critical appreciation mean? It is an attempt to explain what the poem is about and why, what is the reason behind it to write, right? Then it is an attempt to explain what is the subject of the poem. Then it is a description of poetic techniques which enhance the feelings evoked by the words. To write a good critical appreciation, we need to understand its vocabulary, and many more elements are needed, and we will discuss it right now. And critical appreciation means we need to understand its rhyme scheme used by the speaker or poet, figures of speech used in the poem, then its references to the works, then the style of writing, which I every time discuss whenever I talk about a poet. I also discuss his style of writing also, right? Then style of a language used by the poet, time period, context in which the poem is written, the genre, the context, the tone of the speaker, and such other elements constitute this critical reading or critical appreciation, right? And these are some elements. These are 7 elements which we need to understand for a critical appreciation of a poem. And what are these elements? Let us discuss one by one. First of all, we have meaning, right? Meaning. To understand a poem, read the poem more than once to get a clear idea. Why we have to read it again and again? To understand what the speaker is trying to communicate through his work. What is the meaning behind this poem, right? And look up at the meanings of difficult words. Sharpen your vocabulary, right? Most of the time we see that the title of the poem act as a key to the important clues. It acts as a general meaning and summary of the thought presented in it, right? Now, I hope you understand what is the importance of meaning, that sometimes it acts as an important clue. It gives us a summary of the thought presented in this poem. They sometimes contain historical significance also. Next is rhyme scheme. Find the rhyming words. Make the rhyme scheme. In several poems there are no rhymes, and such a poem is called a blank verse, right? And videos related to this rhyme scheme are available on my channel. For example, I have discussed rhyme scheme, Petrarchan scheme, then Shakespearean sonnet, then Petrarchan sonnet. And when we talk about Petrarchan or regular sonnet, we have octave and sestet. And when we talk about Shakespearean sonnet or Elizabethan sonnet, we have 3 quatrains and couplet, 3 quatrains with rhyme scheme A B C D E F, and then couplet G G, and any other rhyme scheme. This topic is, I don't think I need to discuss it here, because I have videos related to this in detail. You can check those videos, right? Then we have third important element, that is speaker. The speaker, we can say the speaker can be the most important aspect of a poem. The speaker is the voice that speaks behind the scene. It is, we can say, it is a narrative voice that speaks of a writer's feelings or situations. It is not necessary that the poet is always the speaker. Keep this thing in mind, that it is not necessary, right? Because sometimes the poet may be writing from a different perspective. It can be anyone, a child, a sailor, even it can be even an object also. One thing more, that sometimes a poem has more than one speaker, right? The speaker often serves as a mouthpiece to communicate the ideas of the poet to an audience, much like an actor. It can tell or act out a first-hand account of what occurs in the poem. And speaker is, we can say, the speaker is also voice that can provide another perspective, right? And for example, I would like to recite here example from Robert Frost's poem The Road Not Taken, right? In my previous videos I have discussed the Mending Wall, and one more poem is Birches. Birches and Mending Wall I have discussed recently. You can check those videos also. The speaker in Frost poem, we were talking about The Road Not Taken. It is a conflicted person who does not tell anything about himself. However, the readers of this poem know that he is undergoing a big decision, that he has chosen a single path according to which he is directing his life, and this path separates into 2 options ahead, right? And when we talk about another poem by John Keats, in poem Ode to Nightingale, right? I'm talking about the speaker in this poem Ode to Nightingale. The speaker, John Keats is himself. He wants to escape into fantasy, right? Sometimes, so my theme is, my crux is that sometimes the speaker is the poet himself, and sometimes he talks from other perspective, right? Then fourth point is context. Context is very important element, as it gives us the time and location of the poem. It answers our questions like, who wrote the poem? Does the poet's life suggest any special point of view? The context might be an event of great political significance, like the French Revolution. It is the French Revolution which prompted this P.B. Shelley's famous Ode to the West Wind. Then context also gives us information about the facts, like when was the poem written and in which country it was written. Then knowing these facts about the poet's life, times and culture helps readers to understand what is in the poem, right? So context is again very important. It also tells us about a question. It also answers a question like, does the poem belong to a particular period or literary movement, such as the civil rights era or feminism or any other movement? So all these things, to know all these things, context is very important. Next is setting. Setting is very important in critical appreciation. The setting, we can say, it is the background of the poem and contributes to its meaning, right? Every poem has a specific setting. It is important to understand the setting of a poem, as we can say it is important to understand the setting of a prose. So it is also important to understand the setting of a poem. The function of setting is of great importance. It has a deep effect. It can help to establish the mood of a poem. It can help to establish the feeling which the text is meant to inspire in the reader, right? It can also present symbolic persons, objects, action, situation, place. It can establish the mood or atmosphere and develop the plot into, we can say, develop the plot into more realistic form. And by establishing mood, setting also helps the audience or helps the reader to relate themselves, right? And we need to figure out whether the poem is taking place in a real physical location or if it is abstract. This will help to actually understand the meaning and content of the poem itself, right? Next is language. The language of a poem acts as a vehicle for thoughts and ideas for poet. But here we have to study the language in terms of the use of figure of speech, its tone, length of sentences, rhythm, and number of lines, etc. We have also to see, does the poet stress certain pleasant sounds or harsh letter combinations, right? Last element is genre. Genre means a class or category of text with similarities in form, style, or subject matter. Its definition, we can say genre's definition changes time to time, right? It roughly means the category of the poem. Each genre has its own rules and characteristics, and four major genres of literature include poetry, drama, non-fiction, and fiction, right? And when we talk about poetry, it can be divided into further genres such as epic, lyric, narrative, satirical, then prose poetry. All these topics are covered in detail under a playlist, poetry and its forms, right? It is very informative playlist for the freshers, so I hope you will like to see those videos in which I have discussed about this element in detail. And let me discuss here example, like we have a very long narrative poem running into several thousands of lines, dealing with divine figures or great generals of the past, or describes a terrible war or an incredible journey on which we can say the fate of humanity rests, can be termed as epic, right? Then for example we have Iliad by Homer, then Paradise Lost by John Milton, and such poems, right? And when we have a short poem of 14 lines expressing intimate emotions, it is called as a sonnet. All these types are discussed in detail in playlist Poetry and Its Form. And so friends, this is all about today's topic, that is critical appreciation, and I hope you will like the content. And if you like it, please hit the like button, share and subscribe my channel, and if you are new to my channel, please hit the bell button so that you can get notifications for my upcoming videos. Thanks a lot for watching.